The Warriors are entering their most anticipated regular season in years. But big problems in the Bay still exist. Today, I'm going to be highlighting the 3 major problems for the Warriors entering the 2024 season. Their one biggest flaw that could cost them an opportunity at another NBA title. And most importantly, the one glaring weakness that no one is talking about, which we'll dive into a bit later. But first, we have to talk about the Warriors roster as a whole because there is an obvious imbalance. As a quick reminder, not all problems are made equal. In fact, some problems can actually be good problems if dealt with in the right fashion. See, while Warriors fans and even just casual watchers of the game sit back and rave about the Warriors' talent on paper, one thing stands out the most, and that's the fact that the Warriors are still very inexperienced outside of their big 4 dogs in Steph, Clay, Draymond, and now of course the newly added Chris Paul. Just looking at it on its face value, outside of the 4 guys I just mentioned, the entire rest of the Warriors have an average of just 4 NBA seasons played. Now that's some serious youth. Wait, being young is a good thing though, right? Well, generally speaking, yes. The energy, the athleticism, the willingness to defend and dive for loose balls, all attributes we see in young players. But there's just one problem. For a team with championship expectations and being a team that falls among the lines of a dynasty, being too young can hurt the team. And we saw this in a fine nutshell just several months ago when the Warriors and their lack of experience reared its ugly head in the NBA playoffs. How many times did you see the big 3, namely Steph Curry, look so burdened and having to do everything? How many times did you feel like the Warriors were just, well, not savvy enough to win big and show up big in big-time playoff games? Well, a lot of that had to do with the Warriors being so young. In the semifinals versus the Lakers, the Warriors ran into this problem a ton, and it might have been the biggest, if not one of the biggest, reasons they simply looked inferior, and that's because they couldn't play their young skilled players enough due to their lack of experience, therefore putting a ton more load on the big 3. Just taking Steph at the top and his 38 minutes per game. If you drop to just the 5th leading player in terms of minutes during that series for the Dubs, that was Jordan Poole, at just 20 minutes per game. Go to their 6th man, which was Gary Payton. That number plummeted to just 15 minutes per game. Yes, while the Warriors developed their younger stars throughout last season and found that those players showed significant improvement and upside, it wasn't nearly enough. And in other news, the Warriors, outside of their shiny new addition in CP3, got even younger this season, with a number of guys being rookies or G League call-ups. But there might be a silver lining to this issue, maybe even a way out, but we'll get to that in problem number 3. But for problem number 2, the Warriors remained far too small and undersized, giving them a potentially huge disadvantage. I've been one of the Warriors' advocates in the past when it came to their unique rotation and their ability to adapt to the game regardless of their personnel and regardless of how big or small they were. But then again, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were a lot younger then. They had other superstars like Kevin Durant, and they just hit a stupid number of threes that forgave any of their flaws. But last NBA season, the Warriors were among the minority because they had no player on the squad averaging double-digit rebounds. Not one. That's a fascinating stat, especially considering the number of threes they shot, which generally leads to longer rebounds and more opportunities for offensive rebounds. Kevon Looney was their best rebounder last season, but the man is only 6'8" and can only do so much. Oh, did I mention that 6'3" tall Steph Curry was 3rd on the team in rebounding? This is why the Warriors were just 14th in the NBA last season in defensive rebound percentage and just 16th in overall defensive rating. If you look down the roster, the Warriors, to my surprise, didn't desperately try addressing this size issue this offseason. In fact, adding Chris Paul tells me that they aren't even concerned about their lack of size. Plus, competition obviously matters a ton. Look around the association and tell me what you see with these mammoth rosters. The Lakers have AD, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, to name a few. Denver has Jokic, Aaron Gordon, heck, DeAndre Jordan. Look out east with Boston, pairing Kristaps Porzingis and Al Al Horford in their front court. Milwaukee with Giannis and Brook Lopez. The Warriors clearly have an uphill battle to climb when it comes to their lack of size and will undoubtedly have to flip the script with their small ball lineup that has helped them win a ton of games in the past. While I don't put it past the Warriors to still be a dominant team despite their lack of length, it can become a nightmare if Steve Kerr and company don't have the right plan in place. But speaking of the right plan, the first player that comes to mind is Chris Paul, the obvious elephant in the room. No, I'm not about to make a case that CP3 is a problem or will become one for Golden State. Instead, I want to look a little past that and discuss a different potential downfall for these new-look Warriors, which takes us to problem number 3, maybe even the biggest problem of them all. Chris Paul is either going to help win a championship or become the reason for not winning one. Sounds harsh, I know, but this is why I saved this problem for the third and final problem of the video. Because what do we know about Chris Paul? High IQ, leadership intangibles, out-of-this-world passer, the epitome of a floor general, and oh yeah, the man who falls apart when you least need it or expect it. Yes, I'm talking about Chris Paul's knack for catching the injury bug at the absolute worst possible time. Just this past season for the Suns, 2018 for the Houston Rockets, heck, take it back to the late 2000s for the Hornets. This is just how the ball has rolled for CP3 over his entire NBA career. And for a team that looks like it's putting a lot of its marbles in CP3's basket, and considering the Warriors' youth, CP3 is undoubtedly going to have one of the biggest roles on the team. And that only means that the expectations are going to soar through the roof. Talking injuries, CP3's past and how it'll impact the Warriors is merely speculation because, after all, he might not get hurt this season, but we can't help but broach the subject because of exactly the reason I just pointed out. The Warriors are really putting their trust in the 38-year-old CP3? Wait, did I just say 38? Wait, he might be 37. Whatever. Either way, I'll tell you one thing. An injury-prone guy who doesn't get any healthier with age actually is the opposite. But let's do the hypothetical. And this isn't a far-fetched scenario either. But say the Warriors ride high with CP3. Offense is clicking, CP3 is using his point guard mastery to get Steph and Klay open looks, and they stand pat defensively thanks in large part to their high-octane offense. But to my Warriors fans, ask yourself this and think about it objectively. If Chris Paul spits the bit and, knock on wood, pulls something, strains something, and has to miss significant time, especially if it's in the postseason, are the Warriors in a position where they can comfortably recoup and stay put when they had trouble doing that very thing just last season, despite, for what it's worth, having a young and versatile scorer like Jordan Poole? In other words, the Warriors' youth and shortened rotation hurt them in big games last season on both ends. It drained Steph Curry mentally and physically, but they still had Poole to help do some of the scoring and take at least some of the scoring and playmaking load off. If you minus CP3's playmaking, leadership, and timely scoring, the Warriors are going to be quite easy to beat, don't you think? But then again, that's the silver lining. If CP3 is there when you need him most, despite him not helping in the defense or size department, he'll unquestionably help things click a lot easier and facilitate the offense in a way we've never seen from these Warriors in the past. He can literally make Steph Curry and even Klay Thompson so much more explosive because he can operate that offense while the Splash Brothers play more off the ball and space that offense so much. It'll reach the high heavens. In 2024, the Warriors have the potential to be the best team in the NBA. Yeah, I said it, the best. But it would be plainly ignorant of us to dismiss any issues or potential for issues for a Warriors team that could also self-implode. I didn't mention the other big problem, right? You know, the potential for internal implosion for the Warriors thanks to Draymond Green and Chris Paul butting heads. Could it happen? I already made an entire video covering that in great detail, and I think you should go watch that right now. After all, that could be problem number 4, and maybe even a bigger problem. But before you go watch that, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you for the Dubs?